Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Today's topic is research paradigms. In this, under this topic, we are going to learn first definition of research and paradigm, and then we're going to also discuss the three major research paradigms, starting from positivistic, interpretivism, and then critical, and then at the end of this course, before discussing your next week uh, work, we are going to little bit talk about the differences between qualitative and quantitative research methods. Well, let's start from definition. Synthesized from a lot of references, research can be defined as a systemic way of answering questions using data. This is the very short definition, but um, I think the right definition. But you can define research as anything, but this is I think the core of research, a systemic way of answering questions using data. And then paradigm Kuhn in 1970 defines paradigm as a set of common beliefs and agreement shared between scientists about how particular problems should be addressed and understood. To make it short, from my point of view, paradigm is the way T thinks, is the way we understand the reality. That's the paradigm. And then let's start from the first um, research paradigm, positivism or positivistic. Positivism research paradigm sees reality as one. There is only one truth. There is only a single reality which can be measured and known, and therefore they are more likely to use quantitative methods to measure this reality. Only one truth. There is only one truth, and it should be it should it should be able to be measured and to be captured by five senses. It is positivistic or positivism, and this positivism belongs to quantitative research methods, and the research designs belong to this approach or paradigm is survey, experimental methods, and correlation. And the second one is interpretivism or constructivism or post-positivism. This paradigm sees reality as a multiple, as a variety, and it believes that there is no single reality or truth. Truth or reality is based on the context, and therefore the reality needs to be interpreted, and therefore they are more likely to use qualitative methods to get those multiple realities. This belongs to qualitative research methods. This approach belongs to qualitative research method, and the research design for this paradigm is case study or ethnography or descriptive. And then the third major research paradigm is critical. Actually, before going to critical, there is one other research paradigm called pragmatism. This pragmatism combines between positivism or positivism, or combines quantitative and qualitative. But I consider it as sub classification or of research paradigm, and let's talk about critical. A critical research paradigm sees realities as something um, that are constructed socially and influenced by power relations from within society. Uh, what is called truth is not something that taken for granted, but what so-called truth is always constructed and created by one of them is the powerful one in the society. Let's say knowledge, norm, what is um, what is acceptable and what is unacceptable in one society is constructed by one of them is the powerful ones. And the, the research design under this research paradigm, um, the most familiar one is action research, obviously, or in our education context, we know classroom action research, and then also there is R&D or research and development, and then critical discourse analysis. This paradigm says that we can construct reality, we can construct the truth. Then, therefore, in conducting research, um, the researchers also tries also try to to do what they think right. Let's start. Sorry. Let's continue to the more specific and in detail discussion. We talk about the qualitative and quantitative research methods. Um, this is these two research methods are usually conflicted and always always face to face. In qualitative research, there are terms that are very different those who are used in quantitative methods, but actually usually refer to um, something that is the same. For example, in qualitative research, there is a term participant, but in quantitative research, there is no. We start from the qualitative terms first. There is participant, trustworthiness, triangulation, research subject, and so on and so forth. But in quantitative research, participants um, is like sample and population. But actually, those two terms refer to one reality, one referee. Qualitative has participant, but in quantitative research, the participant always called as sample and population. In qualitative, there is trustworthiness, but in quantitative, it is always called as validity. In qualitative, there is a triangulation, but in quantitative, it is usually called as instrument test. But it refers to one reality, one what is it? one thing. Triangulation and instrument test are the the technique to make sure that the instrument or the data that you gain uh, is believable. Research subject in qualitative, variables in quantitatives. It can be said. It also can be said that in qualitative research, there is no variables, but there is research subject. Variables are usually used as only in quantitative research. There are also a lot of differences between those two research methods. One of them is purpose. The purpose of qualitative is usually to explore and to understand the phenomenon or the reality or the research subject from insider's perspective by having participation with the individuals and groups. But usually in quantitative research, the purpose is to test or to confirm. To test or to confirm by examining the relationship among variables. It can be two variables or three variables or even more than that, measured by predetermined instruments and measured by statistical procedures. This is the keyword. There is a statistical procedure in quantitative, but in qualitative, it is usually conducted only to explore and to understand from insiders' perspective. Insiders here means the participants, and there is also a difference in the question. Usually, the research question in qualitative research is open-ended, evolving, or dapat dikembangkan, berkembang, and non-directional, tidak ngelid atau tidak menggiring ke jawaban yes or no. And usually the research question in qualitative method started with what, how, and why. But research question in quantitative research usually inquires the relationships among variables, or questions, or ask, or test the relationship among variables. They ask specific, narrow questions to obtain. This is also the keywords: the measurable and observable data. Measurable and observable data. Remember that quantitative research method belongs to positivistic research paradigm, which sees that the reality or the truth is something that can be captured by five senses. It can be it can be seen, it can be heard, it can be touched, it can be tasted. Measurable and observable data. Always remember that quantitative research always question the measurable and observable data. And this also, there is also a difference in the roles of theory in both research methods. In qualitative methods, the role of theory is usually minor, or um, the theory in qualitative data tidak begitu mengarahkan, tidak begitu berpengaruh sekali. It only is used to frame the problem. And the theory in qualitative data is also usually used to compare and contrast the findings. Then it can be said that in qualitative data, the theory is also used at the end of the research. In qualitative data, we start from data, we start from reality, we start from the thing that we have, and then we contrast it with the existing theories, and we create a new theory. But in quantitative method, the theory plays major role. The theory is always suggesting the research questions and justifying the research problems and creating a need for direction. To make it short, the theory in quantitative data plays a big role, plays a main role, plays a significant role uh, from the beginning until the end of the research. And also, the theory in quantitative research is used to compose or to create or to make hypothesis. This hypothesis is something that is usually tested in quantitative research. And these are the differences in data collection and data analysis. In qualitative data, that data collection data collection technique that usually used are observation, interviews, documents, open-ended questionnaires, a visual. It can be a photograph or a film or a painting or a performance. But in quantitative data, but in quantitative method or research, the data is usually collected using tests or close-ended questionnaire, and the data analysis that is usually performed in qualitative data is inductive and deductive in quantitative research. Inductive means that it starts from the theory, from something general, and is explained or investigated in detail in the research. But in quantitative method, deductive process means that we start from the findings, the result, and we narrow it to something general. We start from something specific and head it to something general. That is deductive process. And there is also a tendency to be different in result between quantitative and qualitative research. In qualitative research, it is usually that the research result or the research finding contains the voices of the participants. The participants of the research, or in the quantitative called a sample or population, is important in qualitative. Therefore, the voices of participants is um, usually exposed in the result of qualitative research. It also contains reflexivity of the researcher and the complex description of interpretation of the problem. There is a process of interpretation in qualitative research result, and in the quantitative research, usually the findings or the result is blindly generalized into bigger population because one of the purposes of the quantitative research is to generalize the findings into the bigger or the wider population. And the flexibility. Um, it is commonly known that in the qualitative research, the process of research is flexible. It means that, for example, when you have determined the question at the beginning of the research, and then during the data collection and analysis, you find something interesting that requires you to transform or to change the question. You can change or you can transform the research question. You have the new research question after collecting and analyzing the data. It is acceptable in qualitative data. Sorry, in qualitative research method. But in quantitative research method, it is more rigorous, or the design or study design is stable. Is stable in the beginning, from the beginning to the end. And also in the qualitative research, participants' responses or participants' voices or participants' comments or opinions can affect how and which questions researcher asks next. It means that selain temuan yang menarik tadi, pendapat dari participants pun can lead the research and the researchers to something that is not designed before, can bring the research to unknown place. It is also acceptable and possible in qualitative research, but in quantitative research, participants' responses do not influence or determine how and which questions researchers ask next. It can be divine. It can be also explained that whatever happens, the research design, the research procedure in quantitative research that is predetermined before the process of research is unchangeable, cannot be changed. And also in the qualitative research, the data collection and research questions can be adjusted according to what is found in the field. But in quantitative research, study design is subject to statistical assumption. It is rigid. One, it is a rigid quantitative. It is a rigid research process in quantitative method. These are the references that I used to make this presentation and video. And the next week, the exercise. Today's your attendance will only be recorded when you post your group research topic in the WhatsApp group, and I wait your responses um, until before 12 o'clock tonight. So I'll be waiting for your research group topic, the topic that you are going to investigate to accomplish your mini research project that you should submit in the mid semester examination. And then for the next week, I'd like you to submit your research questions. Your research question. Well, today you post or you submit your research topic, and then you have to discuss with your group members, and then you decide the research question, the data collection, and expected results from your under your topic as the subject of your research. And then next week, as the due date for you to submit the detailed information about the topic that you submit today in the form of table. This is the example. You write at the top of this table your group members and the research topic, and then in the table you put the information about first research question, the data collection technique, and expected results. Please make at least two, and the maximum 3 research questions for your research project for midterm examination. And if you have any question, please don't hesitate to ask in the WhatsApp group. Good luck. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.